Former President Donald Trump is still facing threats on his life. And after today's testimony from local law enforcement, a new report on the Secret Service's failure to protect President Trump and ongoing threats to Iran, there's still a lot more for the bipartisan task force to unpack. With that, let's bring in Texas Congressman Pat Fallon. He's a member of that assassination attempt task force and was inside the hearing today. Congressman Fallon, we know that this threat from Iran was alive and with us ahead of the Butler, PA rally. It was not communicated to law enforcement on the ground. Incomprehensible to me. We know a 20-year-old got a clear shot at the president. We know a wannabe Ukrainian soldier named Ryan Ruth got within 500 yards of the president thereafter. Are you convinced today, with an Iranian threat still against President Trump, that the Secret Service is prepared for the next 40 days?
Kayleigh, absolutely not, quite frankly. I mean, when you look at Butler, there were 9 different ways in which they could have mitigated the threat that the AGR building presented. They could have had somebody on the water tower. They could have flown drones. They could have put a camera on the roof. They could have put law enforcement on the roof. They could have surrounded the AGR building with local law enforcement. They didn't do that. They could have cleared the entire AGR complex. They could have had better communications. They could have done walkthroughs with local law enforcement, and they could have had one command post. None of those things were done. That is so egregious. That is such an epic historic failure. And then to have just a month or so later, another serious threat on President Trump's life. It is absolutely absurd. We're living in it's a world of the bizarre.
We are. And another world of the bizarre moment was, I imagine, when the FBI briefed your task force yesterday. You put out that the FBI shifted the blame. They refused to answer key questions. They gave no new information, and they still won't share key information. Why not? You're in Congress.
That's the thing. I mean, we're on the task force investigating assassination attempts, and they wouldn't tell us the weapon that the Secret Service agent used to shoot at the assailant. They wouldn't tell us how many rounds he shot. And then I looked at them and I said, wait a minute, do you think this is some kind of national secret that Beijing's going to get a leg up on us on because you won't tell us what the pistol that was used by the Secret Service agent? So they are just stonewalling us. We still haven't even seen the rifle that the shooter in Butler used. And this has been months, so it's absolutely inexcusable.
It is inexcusable. And in contrast to the FBI, look, I give Ronald Rowe props for providing you with information. I've heard from some of your colleagues that he is communicating. We've seen him give a press conference. But Ronald Rowe was still Kimberly Cheadle's deputy. He was in leadership when Butler, Pennsylvania happened. Should he be the acting director of Secret Service today?
I think I have serious questions about that, and I have a lot of doubts, quite frankly. I mean, let's be honest. The shooting was July 13th. Did Mr. Rowe visit the site before the hearing on July 22nd that we had with former Director Cheadle? No, not in those 9 days. She didn't think it was important enough, and neither did he. I mean, those are serious questions. What better things did you have to do as the number one and the number 2 in the Secret Service than to go to Butler and figure out how and why it happened so it'll never happen again?
You know, Congressman, something that's just, again, I don't know the answer to at this moment is why there was not a command center on the ground. A senior law enforcement official who's been in this business for a long time told me there is always a command center. Why was there not a command center?
Yeah, there were 2 command posts. That's absurd. That's not what precedent and protocol call for. You have 1 command post because the shooter was on the roof for up to 3 minutes. And when they saw him there, they still had precious seconds to relay that to counter snipers. Granted, now he should have never gotten on the roof because it's a lot easier to prevent these things from happening than having to react to them. But those were wasted, and Corey Comparatori lost his life because of their terrible inefficiencies.
Congressman, we appreciate you digging for the answers. Please keep providing them. The American people would like more. Thank you.
Absolutely. God bless, Kylie.
You know, Sean, listening there to the FBI stonewalling, this is a member of Congress. You were a member of Congress.
Yeah.
They deserve this information.
And again, it begs the question, and I'm going to come back to that in a second, but when we look at the utter failings of the Secret Service, that this shot went off, it could be incompetence, but it begs the question, was it intentional? Because you can't imagine that the Secret Service is that incompetent. And then you move from there to the Florida golf course, that shooter was allowed to stay in the bushes for, 12 hours, and was only spotted moments before Donald Trump came into range after the July 13th assassination attempt. Begs the question, why doesn't the Secret Service care about Donald Trump's life? And frankly, I don't think they do. And if they want to come clean and go, listen, we're going to tell you all of our failings, what we did right, what we did wrong. We're going to tell the Congress what happened here. That would make complete sense, and I think we'd feel better about it. The problem is They're stonewalling. And I guess we're talking about Iran. I get Iran. We should be concerned about Iran. But it was the Secret Service that failed. It's the federal government that's stonewalling the Congress. And it's Donald Trump's life at stake. And so I think there's a lot more work to be done here and a lot more accountability to be had. I don't think we're going to get the answers from the Secret Service. And by the way, the Congress love what they're doing, but they're not an investigative agency. They're legislative, and it's hard for them to do this work, especially when they don't have an agency that's going to cooperate. Cut their funding.
You know, Sandra, just basic human behavior. If you're leading an agency and your job is protecting protectees, Donald Trump, and you were told there's an Iranian threat on this person, if I were Kimberly Cheadle or Ronald Rowe, who's the acting director now, I would micromanage that situation and make sure there is extra protection.
Or Mayorkas, who heads up DHS, who oversees the Secret Service. We've been asking, where is he? Why is he not standing up at a microphone, calling outrage that this has now happened a second time against a former president who we know has a major threat against him? Since that day happened in Pennsylvania, as news media covering major news events, we immediately turn to the major agencies that are leading the investigations, the major authorities, officials involved, and we think we need facts. We need facts on the ground as fast as possible. We know in somewhat of a limited environment at first because they don't want to throw off the investigations, but that did not happen, and it dragged on and on. And you know what happens then? It leaves room for a lot of speculation, and that happened with the American public, because the American public were demanding answers. What happened that day? What were the security failures that led to that day? And they've now waited so long that they are outraged. And now there are big questions over whether or not they can truly protect the former president as the threat against him continues to rise.
What happens in America if there's a third attempt that's successful?
Yeah.
When we have all this information.
Tammy, and it's chilling to hear the congressman say he's not convinced Secret Service is up to the task.
Yes, well, we know there's a whistleblower saying, multiple reports, that Trump had to cancel a Wisconsin rally because they said they just didn't have the resources. I mean, it's a very strange thing, and it worries me, this embattled nature of the refusal to answer questions, which doesn't make sense, but it's a sign of groupthink, which is when you gather yourself around, you don't hear from outside sources, you have one point of view that is prevailing, things you don't consider alternate evidence, that they're perhaps stuck in that. So it's not, yes, of course, presidential protection's important for everyone running for office, et cetera, but for the other things that the Secret Service is doing. So something internally has collapsed. And we are lucky that we're not talking about the assassination of Trump, but I'm terrified to think about what would happen to the country if Kamala Harris is injured seriously, if Trump is killed. We cannot withstand this.
Well, you were talking, Sean, about legislation, and obviously we know that, you know, there's bipartisan support for having more protection for, you know, all the candidates, especially because they're out on the campaign trail, like, you know, putting up, the bulletproof, barriers. We saw many years ago, a pope enclosed in glass, and it's, or bulletproof glass. And it's sad that that's where we are. But I would disagree with you on the funding. And the reason is just to Tammy's point. When they say they don't have the resources, to me, if we cut funding, then we're going to make it, then it's going to put them out there as bigger targets, because you're not going to have the resources for every department, every person within that department to do everything they can to protect all of these individuals, former presidents, current vice presidents, and future presidents.
I would suggest Homeland Security, not Secret Service, because what are they hiding? When you stonewall, when you don't give information, it means you're hiding something. And so you can not cut Secret Service, but go after Mayorkas at DHS.
Well, we pray for the safety of all of our candidates out there, and we pray that Secret Service leadership rises to the moment the way the rank and file have.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.